So let's talk about something that feels, well, just impossible in the 21st century. It's a town called Olivença, and it sits right at the heart of a 200-year-old argument between Spain and Portugal. The craziest part? It's a dispute that almost nobody talks about.
I mean, that's the real question here, isn't it? We think of European borders as totally set in stone, ancient history. But right here, between two super close allies in the European Union, there's a chunk of their border that is just, well, it's not there. And this isn't some dusty old map problem. It's a real, modern-day curiosity.
And this map really shows you what's going on. The border is marked by these stone pillars called marcos. But if you were to actually walk it, you'd get from marker 801 to marker 900 and find nothing in between. Just an 18-kilometer gap where the border officially, vanishes. And smack in the middle of that gap, that's where you'll find Olivença.
Okay, so to really get how this happened, we gotta rewind the clock. Way back. Because for 500 years, Olivença wasn't in dispute at all. It was 100% Portuguese and a really important part of Portugal at that.
The history here is just so deep. Back in 1297, the Treaty of Alcanizes officially made Olivença Portuguese, and it stayed that way for over 500 years. And we're not talking about some quiet little village. In 1488, the Portuguese king built the kingdom's tallest watchtower there, specifically to keep an eye on the rival Spanish city of Badajoz just across the river. A little later, they built the Ponte de Ayuda, this massive fortified bridge for moving troops and supplies.
So here's the key takeaway. Olivença was what's called a praça fort, basically a heavily armed fortress town. It was a critical piece of Portugal's entire defense strategy on its most dangerous border. Its whole identity was built around its military importance to the Portuguese crown.
For 5 whole centuries, that was the deal. But then, in the early 1800s, while the Napoleonic Wars were tearing Europe apart, one short, kind of bizarrely named conflict came along and changed Olivença's fate forever.
The year is 1801. The war is called the War of the Oranges. Seriously. The story goes that the Spanish chief minister, a guy named Manuel de Godoy, literally picked some oranges from outside a town he was attacking in Portugal and sent them to the Queen of Spain. And during this quick little war, his army marched in and took Olivença.
And this document right here, this is the entire legal basis for Spain's control today. It's the Treaty of Badajoz, which Portugal pretty much had to sign, and it hands the town over to Spain. The key phrase is right there. Spain would keep it perpetually. So, case closed, right? Well, not quite.
See, after Napoleon was finally defeated, all the big powers in Europe got together for the Congress of Vienna to basically clean up the mess and redraw the continent's map. And wouldn't you know it, the question of Olivença was back on the table.
This slide gets right to the heart of the legal fight. On one side, you've got the 1801 treaty saying Spain gets the town perpetually. But just 14 years later, at the Congress of Vienna, every major European power, and this includes Spain, signed a new treaty. And this one recognized the justice of Portugal's claim and officially committed to its retrocession, which is just a fancy diplomatic way of saying giving it back.
Exactly. I mean, you'd think that would be the end of it. The Vienna Treaty seems crystal clear. It says the territory should be returned. So what happened? Why is Olivença still part of Spain today?
Well, the answer is a masterclass in diplomatic foot-dragging. First, Spain just refused to sign the final treaty from Vienna. When it finally did, 2 years late, it just delayed. Then it found a great excuse. Portugal had just taken over a territory in South America, what is now Uruguay. Spain used this to put the talks on hold, and to this day, its argument is that the original 1801 treaty is the one that really counts.
So with the diplomats stuck in limbo, a slow, very deliberate process of cultural change began on the ground. It started in 1840, when speaking Portuguese was banned in schools and even churches. Then, under the Franco dictatorship in the 20th century, that pressure got way more intense. And finally, new towns were built nearby and populated with people from other parts of Spain, watering down that original Portuguese culture even more.
And that brings us to today, where Olivença is this place with all these complex, overlapping identities. The political question might be frozen, but what's actually happening to the culture there? For the people who live there.
This quote is just, wow, it's so powerful. After generations of being pushed down, the local Portuguese dialect started to be associated with being uneducated or from the countryside. As this researcher put it, it became the echo of the past, not the language of the future.
Now it's really only spoken by the elderly.
But here's the twist. In the last few decades, something pretty amazing has started to happen. There's been this real effort to revive and celebrate the town's Portuguese heritage. Streets now have bilingual signs showing their old Portuguese names. The town is officially twinned with several Portuguese cities. And just recently, in 2025, the town even celebrated Portugal's National Day, unveiling a statue of the great Portuguese poet, Camões.
So, what's the bottom line today? Well, diplomatically, the whole thing is frozen. Portugal isn't making a big fuss demanding the town back, but it has never officially given up its legal claim. And while it doesn't really affect day-to-day relations, it's still on the books. In fact, if you look it up in a source like the CIA World Factbook, you'll see it listed right there as an unresolved dispute.
And all of this leaves us with a much bigger question, doesn't it? The story of Olivença, with its Portuguese past, its Spanish present, and this really unique dual heritage, it really makes you think. In our modern world of open borders and shared unions, what really defines a nation anyway? Is it just a line on a map drawn centuries ago? Or is it the living, breathing culture, the language, and the identity of the people who actually call a place home?